In this interview that Snoop Dogg did with Nas, he said he's seen the face to face between Tupac and Nas in New York at Bryant Park. And he said that Nas, he was deep. And if Nas wanted to, he could have had Tupac dealt with if he wanted to. Is that true?
Not at all. Not at all. Not to take nothing away from Nas. Like Nas is the homie. Him and Pac was the generals at that particular day, but it wasn't like we was outnumbered. You got to realize the part of New Jersey I'm from, Irvington and Newark, Gaddafi boys and Fader boys and Noble boys from Montclair. I honestly think we was at least 30, 40 deep from New Jersey. This different neighborhoods. Gaddafi and them have his neighborhood. Fader and they boys, they came deep. I have my neighborhood. And anybody who know where I come from back then, we was already shooters. I come from a neighborhood where when we came, we had guns. Like I came with, and I'm not saying this to brag, once again, just to clarify that this was the mindset back then. You understand? So we was ready. And I'm sure Nas was ready because this is New York. This is his turf. So we're not taking nothing away from Nas. Nas handled it, and Pac, not just Nas, they both handled it in a mature way. It wasn't like Pac seen Nas and was like, you know what, let's go do something. They both wanted to speak. They both wanted to talk. So if Nas would have pressed the button, he could have. He could have told his boys, do something. Pac would have told us to do something. Like I said before, it would have been a bloodshed. You know what I mean? I personally remember I had a 357 on me at that particular time. You know what I mean? And the dudes that I was with, you know, because most of the time they interview Fade on them boys. The homies that I come from, unfortunately, a lot of them is dead or in jail or just grew up and, you know, changed their life and they don't really want to speak about this. But it was some dangerous people, man, on our side. You know what I mean? And I'm sure Nas had some dangerous dudes on his side. So we thank God, you know what I mean, that it happened mature, that Nas and Pac was able to, you know, speak like two adults in common situation that probably would have been deadly on both sides. No doubt about it, bro. It wasn't one-sided, you know?
Speaking of what you said Tupac and Nas spoke like two grown men. But Snoop, he also said in his interview with Nas that he was the bigger person in that situation with Tupac, alluding that Tupac was more on the negative side when him and Nas had that face-to-face at Bryant Park.
That's another false statement because Nas and Pac was the bigger man. They was the big man, the big men. They showed us youngsters how it can happen. It was like I said, it wasn't like Pac saying Nas and said, you know what, let's go handle this dude. Y'all ready? Let's go beef. You know what I mean? It was none of that. I have a lot of respect for Nas, and the reason why I have a lot of respect for Nas, because back then, the Death Row era, jokers used to run away from Suge and Death Row. When they come to New York, jokers used to split away from him. Nas, he knew Suge and Pac was there, and he walked over with his crew to say, let's go holler at these dudes. He wasn't afraid. When Pac seen him coming, Pac walked over. And they really spoke like two grown, mature men. They show youngsters that, look, you don't always have to, you know, rely on violence. You don't always have to go to violence. Both of them showed us that it can be done. It wasn't like Pac was running around like Snoop making a scene and wilding, and Nas was the mature one, and his boys was in the corner. Because that's what it seemed like. His boys was in the corner waiting, and we just like these clowns waiting to get dumped on. No, it wasn't like that, man. It was two. Nas had some crazy dudes in his camp. We had some crazy dudes in our camp. Him and Pac spoke like men, shook hands. I believe they even hugged. And it was a very beautiful thing that people keep trying to twist it. You know what I mean? Instead of twisting it, just say, look, man, these was two. Pac and Nas really showed us how it can be done. They really showed, you know what I mean, for the whole people that was perpetrating and promoting the so-called East Coast, West Coast. What Nas and Pac did, what they done together on that night was enough to say, look, man, them two soldiers try to stop the East Coast, West Coast beef. You know what I mean? They wasn't pouring, you know, fuel on fire. They really showed us how it can be done. But when Snoop always say, bro, first of all, I don't even remember seeing Snoop there. Maybe he was in the corner, you know what I mean, and maybe misread the situation, but he wasn't there. Like he wasn't in the crowd. He don't know what was said. He wasn't nowhere in that, you know, that proximity to know what was really happening. Those who was there, we was around. You know what I mean? They really did it. They both was gentlemen. You know what I mean? Much love to Nas. He really handled it like a G. Pac handled it like a G. And that's why to this day I have an utmost respect for Nas. You know what I mean?
So the face-to-face that Tupac and Nas had in New York at Bryant Park after the MTV Awards, you don't remember seeing Snoop?
I don't remember seeing Snoop there. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, I don't remember seeing him there. Definitely, I can't recall that he was actually one of the dudes there. I don't even remember Suge being there. I don't know. You know what I mean? I think Suge might have been in that party, but when it happened, I don't think he was right there. You know what I mean? So it was our homies and Nas homie. Cause you would have seen if Suge was there, Suge would have been right there. Nas would have been like, yeah, Suge, cause Suge, he was overprotective of Pac. You know what I mean? He would have never let Pac be there. So I think it was one of them things with Pac, the Jersey homies. You know what I mean? Suge homies, they was probably walking around, you know, with security. If something would have popped off, that's why I said you got to understand also the way Death Row roll. They roll with armed security. So you got street dudes with guns. Then you got armed security, retired police officers with guns, and I'm sure Nas homies was loaded up. They were strapped, so it was a situation that it would have been bad for both sides. You know what I mean? It would have been bad for everything, for the culture, for you know what I mean, for everything. It would have been a very bad situation.